Bitcoin is brushing up against $92,000. Gold and silver continue heading toward all-time highs, and there are new tariffs. Yes, the tariff king is back. The Clarity Act apparently has pretty much gone through, and there's one more thing with news coming out today. And with that, welcome to a new crypto update video. Yes, Bitcoin is at just under $92,000. Somehow I'm getting a bit of deja vu from yesterday because we were pretty similar then. So not much has really happened, at least in the Bitcoin chart. In terms of volume, yes, we're doing relatively well, but to be honest, the range is still dominating everything at the moment. We kind of have mixed feelings on the one hand because of the whole Fed story, because of Powell, since that somewhat undermines the authority of the Fed. And in my opinion, if it really comes to that, if there are further charges or he gets convicted or something else happens, that would massively weaken the US dollar and could possibly lead to a sell-off in the stock markets in order to then restructure into, for example, gold, silver, and other commodities. But that's still a bit far off. Today, for the first time, the CPI data is on the agenda. We'll take a look at all of that. But before we get started, as always, feel free to give the video a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and of course, check out the free Telegram talk and signal group. There, you'll always get the latest info whenever I enter any trades, or if I open something new, you'll be the first to find out about it in there. So feel free to sign up using the link below in the video description or in the comment section. And if you're still looking for an exchange where you can trade all of this, you can do it all with my partner, Exchange BingX. There you can trade crypto, forex, stocks, and who knows what else you can trade there. So it's really become an all-in-one exchange by now. And at the moment, there are up to 11,500 USDT available. So feel free to sign up. All right, let's get into it. Bitcoin at $91,900, so just under $92,000. We are still, in my opinion, in our larger bear flag or consolidation. Our symmetrical triangle, which we also drew in here, is somehow not that accurate anymore. So we had the first breakout, which failed, and we went back in down to the 200 SMA. Now we're moving away from it again, but not really with any momentum. That's actually not what I want to see in a symmetrical triangle. I want to break out, I want to retest, maybe a slight dip back in, but then a strong move upward. And we're not seeing that at the moment. And in my opinion, that's a big problem. That also has to do with the funding rates, which are increasing significantly again now in the last few hours. We're already back at plus 0.026% on crypto.com, and otherwise we're relatively or almost everywhere in the positive. So from that, we can also see, okay, clearly more people are going long again. Do we also see that in the heat map? Yes, to some extent. So we still have our cluster up here at 94,000. We have a cluster at 89 and at 88.5. Those are the current clusters. Interestingly, something has appeared down here again, on the one hand at 82 and on the other at 73,000. So it's been the same patterns over and over again for weeks. On the one hand, we've been in this large cluster here for weeks, and on the other hand, new clusters keep forming just below us, always around 82, 83, and of course around 72, 73,000. Always the same patterns. The biggest clusters, they suddenly disappear and then reappear. Let's take a look at the higher time frames. Let's switch to the monthly time frame and remove the small orders here. We can see, okay, there are really only clusters at 95K, then again from around 84 down to 83K, and a big cluster at 70K. At the moment, these are our largest liquidity areas on the higher time frames, which would still fit with our plan that we're still in the B wave here, forming our bear flag. And from here, the sell-off would then take place at some point to get Michael Saylor's entry, who yesterday, again, I think bought 1.2 billion worth of Bitcoin. At the same time, just as much is somehow being sold off again. So we can see here, yesterday, or rather last night, there was a brief spike here. 48 million in spot Bitcoin was sold. So you can already see from that, massive spot selling is still going on. Every spot purchase is simply used to about $1,000 or $2,000 higher than spot Bitcoin is sold off again. And that's simply still the problem at the moment. So we're seeing too little spot demand, too many spot sales as soon as the price goes up a bit. And with futures, it's the same thing. They end up getting wiped out again. It's always the same pattern that we keep seeing here. That probably won't change anytime soon either. And liquidity is simply gone at the moment. And that's a big, big problem still. Then, as I already said, the tariff king is back. Trump, oh no, wrong article here. That's where I wanted to go. Tariff uncertainty is back. President Trump has announced a 25% tariff on countries doing business with Iran. And coincidentally, of course, China is making the biggest deal with Iran. It was just so obvious again. So once again, it's basically starting all over again. They're just going around in circles here. And then there's the whole story with the USA and Venezuela, of course, somehow as well. China, Russia, and all the other countries Trump is currently at odds with, it's just not going smoothly. Let's be honest, nothing is really running smoothly anywhere. And we're really just at the beginning. We have to be clear about that, because if we take a look at the economic data, Asian shares hit record, yen falls to 2024 level. The yen is still under massive pressure, but money is slowly being distributed everywhere. We're seeing a lot more reallocation globally because the US risk is still relatively high. On the other hand, we have Japanese 10-year bonds at 2.16%, the 20-year at 3.13%, and the 30-year back at just under 3.5%. That's a complete powder keg. Also, a yen that's this low and continues to be under downward pressure. It won't be long before Japan has to intervene, and that time will come. On the 23rd, we have January, so in 10 days, the Bank of Japan meeting. Apparently, the lower house over there is also supposed to be dissolved, according to the current prime minister. So things are simmering everywhere. And I'm waiting, and I've been telling you this for 1 or 2 weeks now, I'm waiting for that one domino to fall. Let's see what the first domino will be. Things are going well for Bitcoin. 92,000. Hey, okay, cool. Still, there needs to be much more movement. Ethereum is also pretty dead. So yesterday we talked about my sell zone between 3.5 and 3.8. It's in there, but right now it's just lacking power. It's way too weak. Nothing is really happening. Didn't quite reach my sell targets. We're still in the fourth, or rather the fifth wave of our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 formation. Yesterday I was hoping, or rather wishing, that we would get up into this price range here at $145 to $150 for a short position, because up here we just kept getting massively rejected. And that's just how it is. At the moment, you have to consider the scenario. Okay, swap the liquidity up here just like we did with Bitcoin, just like we did with Ethereum, in order to get the new turnaround to the downside, or an overall wave 1, wave 2 correction, and then start a bullish wave 3. But right now, we're still a long way from that. All we've managed to do is swap the last high here again, and now it's going down. So technically, the fifth wave could already be in here, but for me, the maximum short zone is up here. Now, in this zone, I'm not going to do anything for the time being. Yeah, traditional markets, gold keeps pumping, silver keeps pumping. So yeah, nothing new, change. The uncertainties, I just mentioned it, the uncertainties are massive on a global scale. No matter what, there's always something brewing somewhere right now, uncertainties everywhere. And then the whole story with the Fed and Trump, that's not good. And of course, precious metals and commodities benefit greatly from that. Because where do people go? To safe havens? Where do people go when everything crashes? Back into the dollar or into other safe havens like the euro or yen? If you think a bit further, Robert Buffett, of course, has also shifted massive investments or capital to Japan. He probably didn't do that without reason. And of course, he's still sitting on massive cash reserves. Keep that in mind. Cash is still king and never right off the dollar. Even if the dollar is under a bit of pressure here, it's still gradually moving upwards. Our fractal is also performing very well at the moment. USD/JPY is now also in the intervention zone, so let's wait and see. Honestly, it can't take much longer, I'm telling you now. But all right, let's wait and see. Otherwise, traditional markets themselves. DAX at 25,500 points. I'm still not short because apparently the markets still have no interest in correcting. And I'm just waiting for that hit. I actually expected it yesterday, okay, that with the Fed, the markets are put under a bit more pressure, but surprisingly, the markets don't care at all at the moment. Okay, LOL. Let's see what else is coming. But I'm still waiting to trigger a short attempt here because the volume isn't that strong either. Massively overbought. Let's see. Dow Jones, new all-time high, still in our huge consolidation zone, and it's been like that for quite a while now. Nasdaq isn't doing much. Less volume, rising prices, divergence. S&P 500, new all-time high, but again, just barely. Still in my sell zone, nothing has changed. I'm still short. And last but not least, the volatility index. At least there's slowly some movement coming in, but not really what we want to see at the moment. So what can we ultimately summarize now? Say, the markets are a bit paranoid, maybe. The world is in chaos, but the markets don't care at all yet. That's why I always talk about that one domino that needs to fall to get everything started. At the moment, I'm not ruling out 95K for Bitcoin, and I'm also not ruling out new all-time highs for US tech indices. Shorting too early doesn't make sense. S&P 500 and USD/JPY are exceptions to that. And the Bitcoin short, which has been running for quite some time now and is also profitable. But now, to short everything at all costs doesn't make sense. It makes sense to accumulate cash and have it ready in case something happens. Otherwise, all that's left for me to say is I wish you a wonderful and successful day. Tonight at 7 p.m, we'll be live again on YouTube. I'm definitely looking forward to it, and otherwise, yes, that's it from my side. As always, thank you for watching. Then we'll talk again tonight at 7 p.m. Thank you very, very much. Until then, ciao, ciao, and as always, stay crypto.